Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch and the continuing saga of my allergies. Yes, I know I sound like I have a terrible bad cold. I don't. So don't worry about me. I'll be better in, about August. Now let's talk about food. Last night I made something that I was so happy with. I couldn't wait to share it with you as the next in the Senior Nutrition series. Chicken fried rice cauliflower. Yes, cauliflower. I know I cook a lot of cauliflower, and you got to know that I am pretty sick of it. But being on a low-carb diabetic diet and a fixed budget, I end up eating a lot of cauliflower. So my goal here was to finish with something tasty, nutritious and easy, budget-friendly, that doesn't taste like cauliflower. Now let's get cooking. Now there are a lot of ingredients here. Don't bother to write them down. I'll put them in the info section. They're all inexpensive, and I had them all on hand. This is 2 chicken thighs. I buy a great big pack of frozen, boneless, skinless chicken thighs every month, and I eat them all. I have dried it and cut it into little chunks. This is 2 tablespoons of butter, and this is sesame oil. Now, I keep sesame oil. You don't use much at a time, and you can get it at almost any grocery store. If you don't have it, you can use another oil. And this is some diced carrots. It's actually 1 large diced carrot. Works out to half a cup, and a half cup of frozen peas. If you have frozen peas and carrots, just use 1 cup of that. And then I have here a large red onion. You can use a white onion. It's a little over half a cup. And this is a small can of mushrooms. 4 ounces drained. And you know, if you can marinated mushrooms, they're fine. This is a little minced parsley for garnish. Normally you would use some green onions chopped up finely. I was out. And this is a half teaspoonful of minced garlic. It would be about 2 or 3 cloves if you're using fresh. This is 2 tablespoons full of soy sauce. I use the low sodium because the other is so salty. And this is a tablespoonful of rice wine. I keep that for making Asian food. It's not expensive. You get it at the grocery store. And speaking of that, I think I want 2 tablespoons full. I'm using that even though I don't usually use wine in cooking because I want to get rid of the cauliflower taste. And I think that will help. You buy a small bottle, it'll stay good in your fridge for a long time. You can substitute some red wine vinegar or some rice vinegar. Salt, pepper, paprika, and 1 egg. This is optional, but usually fried rice has an egg. And this is a 10-ounce package of riced cauliflower. You can make your own from fresh, but when it's just me, I find there's less waste if I buy it frozen. So let's prepare the chicken. As I said, I dried it really well when I thawed it out. I'm going to add a little freshly ground black pepper and a little salt, maybe a half teaspoon of each, not a whole lot. The drying and salting helps make sure you get a nice little brown on these pieces. So we seal in the flavor. Now again, I'm trying to make sure I have no cauliflower taste. So I'm going to add a little bit of paprika to this mix. Makes it pretty, adds a little color, brings a little smoky flavor. Now I'm going to put about a half teaspoon in there. You see these tiny little spoons? I got them because they're red, and my bottles are red, and they hold a 1/4 teaspoonful each. And once I got them, I realized how handy it would be to have a 1/4 teaspoonful measurement in every single spice jar. And so I do, and I think I paid like $1.50 for a great big bag of them. So once I get all the meat coated, I'll just set this aside and go on to the next step. And that would be the egg. In this ramekin, I have 1 tablespoonful of water, and I'm going to put the egg in, and then I'm going to scramble it up. I'm not going to beat it till it's frothy. Just do it like you would for scrambled eggs or an omelet. The egg is totally optional, but generally there is a fried egg in fried rice. And I have a very sad story to tell you about this egg. I'll meet you at the stove. This is my field skillet. If I haven't introduced you to my field skillet before, I love it. I'm not a spokesperson for the company, but I talk about it all the time. It's beautiful. It's the field skillet. You buy it online. I'm melting my 2 tablespoons full of butter, and I'm leaving the sound on so you can hear the sizzle. And here's the sad story about the egg. I went to all this trouble to cook this egg. I put it aside in a bowl. Then I forgot to put it in my final product when it was done. But don't worry, I ate it. It was good. So when you put it in the pan, don't have the pan too hot. You want this to fry flat. And you want to spread it out in the pan, but you see the field skillet is so slick, it just slides around. But that's flat enough, and you want to cook it about 2 minutes, just until it is solid to the touch. So when you touch that yolk part there, it's no longer liquid, but it's not browning at all. That's why you keep your heat low. And I'm just going to flip it over and put it in this little bowl over here, and then I'm going to totally forget about it until after the video is done, and then I'm just going to put it on the plate and eat it. But I'll show you where I should have put it in the fried rice. So after the egg is cooked, I still have a fair amount of butter in there, so I'm going to add just a little sesame oil. And it's pretty hot already. I'm going to test a piece of chicken just to make sure it sizzles. And it does sizzle. And then I'll add the rest of the chicken. Word about sesame oil, it just brings a wonderful flavor. I use it sparingly. I get it at the Kroger. It comes in a really small bottle, and I keep it in the fridge. If you don't have sesame oil, you can use another vegetable-based oil. I'm going to recommend that you use grapeseed oil or sunflower oil. There are so many problems with things like corn oil and vegetable oil that have to do with pesticides used in their production. And so I try to avoid them. And I don't cook a lot with olive oil because extra virgin olive oil breaks down. It's not really for frying. And you lose most of its wonderful flavor in the heat. So I've let this cook about 2 minutes on each side. I was chatting and didn't tell you as I was going along. And I've just now added the 2 tablespoons full of the rice wine. As I said, you can use a little vinegar here if you like. I like the rice wine better. You can use a little bit of broth. Just something to help make the sauce and the flavor that's left in the pan after we take the chicken out. So I'm going to let that simmer for about 2 minutes in the wine. And here's a note about cooking with wine. Folks will tell you the alcohol cooks off. The alcohol never fully cooks off, no matter what you've heard. There will always be some left. With 2 tablespoons full of wine, it's not an issue for most folks. But for some folks, any amount of alcohol is an issue. So just hold that in mind when you decide to use it. So we're going to take this chicken up. It's been about 6 minutes altogether. 2 on one side, 2 on another, and 2 with the wine. And I'm not going to drain it at all. Whatever goes into the bowl is going back into the dish. And the flavor of the wine is on the chicken, but it's also in the fond that's left behind. So I'll just set this to the side, and then we'll move to the onions. Now, I have my heat on medium. I've had it on medium this whole time. I want to cook these onions and get a little golden color on them. But I don't want to burn them. I don't want to scorch them. And you can see immediately how that sesame oil and butter starts to add some beautiful color to these onions. I love the smell of onions cooking. They smell wonderful even to my allergy nose. So I'm going to put a half teaspoonful of salt on these. That helps them let go their flavor and their moisture. And we're just going to let these simmer for a couple minutes. Make sure they're coated fully with the oil and the wine sauce and all that flavor. You know, when you build flavors a layer at a time, they're so rich and deep. And they really go all through the dish. You know, low heat is the key to getting the flavor in onions. I'm not going to caramelize these. I'm not going to cook them that long. But low heat will help develop the flavor. Then I'm going to add my carrots. And you can see that I chopped these very small. A little note about cooking raw vegetables, frozen vegetables together is I have to put these in first because I want to give them a chance to cook and to soften up. If I were just using peas and carrots together, I would put them in now. But because my carrots are raw, I'm going to give them a couple minutes head start. And I want to make sure that I cook this dish until the carrots are soft. So here are my mushrooms. You can use fresh mushrooms here if you like. I had a small can that's 4 ounces drained, so I just decided to use it in this dish. And it's getting a little dry in there, so I'm going to add another couple tablespoons full of the sesame oil. If you'll notice, I always make a space in the middle to add oil or broth or whatever in a dish like this because it sort of heats it and then it mixes in with everything else better. So I'm adding the frozen peas now. And I'm going to let those sit there just a minute, and then I'm going to stir them in. And as we go along, I'm realizing the carrots are probably they're still not getting soft enough. So I'll deal with that in a few minutes. See, I tested it, and they've been cooking for, 4 or 5 minutes, and they're still not getting soft. They're going to need a little bit of broth added to them to help them steam and get soft. And normally, no, you don't put broth in fried rice. But it will give the carrots a little boost and a little help in softening up. Now that was my minced garlic. And I'm going to stir that around and mix it in. And then I've measured out about 2 tablespoons full, 1 ounce, of beef broth that I had in the fridge. You could use chicken broth. You could use water. But, I'm working on building up that flavor to overpower that cauliflower. So I used the beef broth I had in the fridge. I'm going to cover this up, let it steam for about 3 or 4 minutes. And I'll add that little bit of broth to the ingredient list. And I think that's done the trick. And oh my, this smells so good. Let's check a carrot. Yeah, it cuts right in half now. And you can see that broth has pretty much been soaked up. It's not going to make it mushy. It's actually made a kind of a sauce in there. And when I add the cauliflower, it will soak up the rest of it. So now I'm going to add a little bit more of the sesame oil because I'm going to add the cauliflower in now. And I'll just put another couple tablespoons full in. That was more like 1 tablespoonful. And I have already microwaved the cauliflower, the riced cauliflower, and opened the bag and poured it into a colander. And I've let it drain this whole time so that it will be dried out. Now I'm going to add the soy sauce. Now, I said I use low sodium soy sauce. And then the cauliflower. It's not because I'm avoiding sodium. It's because it varies so much from brand to brand. And I figure if I use the low sodium, then I can control the salt content more. I can always add it, but I have gotten soy sauce that was so salty it ruined the dish, in my opinion. So I always get the low sodium kind. Now I'm just going to stir this all in and distribute the oil and the sauce that's in there, soy sauce and everything else that was, all the other flavors that were left in there. And I'm going to let this cauliflower fry a little. For about 3 minutes. It doesn't have to be precise. And then I'm going to add in that beautiful chicken. And you could use any meat in this. I have a Boston butt in the freezer that I have hesitated to cook because most nights it's just me. And this would be a wonderful way to use some of that meat. So we're just going to stir this around. It's pretty much done. And if I had remembered my beautiful egg, my sad, sad egg, now is when I would put it in and chop it up, and there would be little tiny pieces of egg all through it. You wait till the very end because you don't want to overcook the egg and let it get rubbery. So we're pretty much done, but we want to check it for salt. And, oh, it's so hot. But it's fine on salt. Let's plate this up. So I can't wait to try this. I've put a little garnish on there, that parsley. And next time I'll make sure to have some green onions and just chop up 2 or 3 little green onions, tiny, along with a lot of the green, and put them on top. And oh yes, that's the perfect thing. This is really hot, but I'm going to try to dig in and get just a little taste of several of the different flavors in here. And I'm blowing on it. It's hot. And it's good. And I'm tasting for cauliflower. I'm trying to find it. And I can't. And that's a good thing. It tastes not exactly like rice. More like some other grains you might try. But not cauliflower, and so very yummy. This is going on my once a week list with some different kind of meat. Maybe next time it'll be shrimp. Nope, that'll be payday. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. I really hope you try this, and I hope you love it as much as I do. And I hope to see you again tomorrow.